attending some events and all that. So thank you for joining us this Saturday afternoon. And this is one of the very important topics that we usually miss. Many people usually miss to get awareness or get some knowledge about the drugs and how they have used, how to identify them, and things like that. So today's session is mainly geared towards parents to help them out in terms of identifying how to deal with and all that. And we have a stellar presenter here. Deputy First Class Kevin Ferraro is going to be presenting. And we have also with us our very honorable Sheriff Ron Freeman, Sheriff of Forsyth County, Georgia. And he's going to say a few words for us. And before that, let me ask our President, Anjay Chowdhury Lavagaru, to start a few words and kick off the meeting, and then we'll go to Sheriff Freeman and Deputy Ferraro. Thank you, everyone. Chowdhury Garu, please.
Yeah, thank you, Sriram. I want to make sure you can hear me, right? One last time.
Yes, yeah, we all can hear you.
Okay, yeah, and a warm welcome and good afternoon. And as Sriram mentioned, I'm in India. It's almost early in the morning, 12:35. So yeah, as Sriram mentioned, this is very useful, and I really feel that probably one of the need of our topics. Definitely, I would like to thank both the presenters, and they have abundant knowledge, and they have done this before. So I remember, I believe I was part of one of the prior presentations. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to take back and to create awareness among the parents, of course, first of all, and then the next generation, I guess. So, first of all, if we need to do that, we need to know what are all the facts related or surrounding, drug and its awareness, and how to identify drugs and, whatnot, all the topics related to take back and then make use and to take the leverage of this invaluable presentation. It's not just a presentation, but I think it's more than that. So I would like to thank, there are a few core people. Without their help, we couldn't make this happen. So Sriram, really, as you see, he's one of the key for this presentation. Of course, Venkat Misala, Southeast RVP, Bharat Madineni, Hitesh, and Rajesh Champala, and of course, not the last but not the least, our Raja Kaskurti, who is a community service coordinator, who is on top of getting all the invaluable topics and and every other aspect of even community service today that would cater to our audience, Telugu people in general. So without much delay, let's jump into the webinar/seminar and take advantage of it. You all have a good day. So back to you, Sriram.
Thank you. Thank you, President Anjay Chowdhury Garu. And now I would request our beloved Sheriff Ron Freeman to say a few words and kick off the event, because he has got tremendous experience in a lot of areas. So let's hear it from him. Sheriff Freeman, it's all you, sir.
Sriram, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for having enough interest to do this. Look, if you want to know the most important thing to make sure that our kids don't fall into the use of drugs or fall into some kind of substance or abuse or habit, the number one thing is having active parents, nosy, active, and engaged parents. So you've already got the first part, and that's fantastic. If we can't care enough about our kids, then I don't know why we're doing the things that we do. Most of us probably on this call are parents. If we weren't, it might not have the same meaning to us. I wish that I could tell you great news, that drugs were almost gone and drug abuse was almost gone and those kind of things. What we have seen in the past 2.5 years of the COVID pandemic is a resurgence in the use of heroin, a resurgence in the use of methamphetamine. We see cocaine, we see all drugs, particularly prescription pills. We've seen a resurgence in that. We've seen an uptick in overdoses from childhood age to the 70s, adults to children. Look, Almost 90% of the illicit drugs in the United States are brought across the Mexican border. And that's not some disparaging remark about people of Mexican heritage. It is a statistical fact that drug cartels are running drugs from Mexico and Central America through Mexico into the U.S. And unfortunately, Atlanta is a major hub for that. So there is no shortage of drugs from that. So I'll leave with a couple other things, and I'll turn it over to Kevin because he has all the specifics that we'd like to talk to you about today. Mm-hmm. Number one is why Atlanta is a hub. Understand that our Johns Creek Forsyth Drug Task Force, Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, we target drug dealers who sell dangerous drugs to our kids. No matter what case we are working on, if we get information that someone is selling drugs to our kids, we drop every other investigation, and that becomes our top priority. I wish I could tell you that there's great news in that rarely happens. But I will tell you, just a few weeks ago, our drug task force arrested a young 19-year-old man living in his parents' home, probably a $700,000 or $800,000 home, who was knowingly selling fentanyl-laced pills. Fentanyl is the stuff that's killing everybody. Okay, fentanyl is the stuff that makes heroin look like it's weak. And he knew it, and not only was he selling it, he was trying to get people hooked on it, and was giving them instruction on how not to overdose on it so that he could sell more to them. And in the undercover investigation we were doing, was telling us he wanted us to help buy more. He thought we were buying drugs from him. Of course, we were, but just to arrest him. But he thought we were going to be some customer of his, and he wanted us to help him expand his fentanyl market. That's next door in Johns Creek, and it might as well be Forsyth County, and it could have just as easily been Forsyth County. So Kevin, I know we'll talk about, so as parents, let me tell you right now, the number one way outside of your own medicine cabinet that kids are getting drugs, and I can't pick up my cell phone because I'm on my cell phone, but if I could, I would hold my cell phone right now. The apps on your cell phone that your children are communicating with each other with, okay? It's not Facebook. It's not Facebook Messenger. That's for us old people, right? It is their cell phones and the apps. And there can be hidden apps on the phone. There can be apps that erase messages after so many seconds or so many minutes, those kind of things. That is how drug dealers and users or people who are consuming drugs are communicating now. That's how drug deals are being set up. As much as we want to trust our children, and I do, I'm blessed that I have two great kids. They're both adults now. One's married, one just graduated college. But as much as I wanted to trust them, and I did trust them, it was also my job as dad to be nosy and to make sure that I was protecting them until they were old enough to make those decisions like they are now at 27 and 23 years old. So there was no secrecy of phone. No, that's my phone. You can't look at it. I'm sure, like most people on this call, I paid for their phones. Okay. And if I paid for it, I own it. And so I was nosy. We used a Life 360 app as an accountability. We still, to this day, my grown family use that as an accountability measure. So we know where each other are. So I can see where my kids are if something happened to them, right? If they needed me for some reason, they can see if they're expecting me and they know me as sheriff. I often get called away to things. They can look at the app and go, oh, Dad's still at the office. For us, it was an accountability measure. But when they were younger and teens, it was also an accountability that I knew they weren't where they were not supposed to be. I knew who they were hanging around with. I took an active interest in who their friends were. I took an active interest in their grades and how they were doing in school and how they were struggling or not struggling. The cell phone and being actively engaged in your kid's life is the absolute number one prevention medicine I could ever tell you to make sure that your kids are not going to end up using illicit drugs or having a problem with drugs and alcohol. It is by far the number one thing. So be nosy. Do it. Obviously, we do it out of love because we love our children. Do it out of care, but don't be bashful and not do it because you feel like you're invading their privacy. Okay. Our job as parents is to guide them into adulthood. They may not like it. I wish I didn't have to tell you to do it, but you need to do it because it is absolutely, I would venture, and it is a guess statistically, but it is an educated guess statistically. Probably 70+% of drug deals now are made on social media apps. So those are the things that I would strongly tell you to look at what your kids are doing, who they're communicating with, and hold them accountable. And that's just part of being a good parent, good moms, good dads from those kind of things. Kevin will talk about the trends and things that we can do outside of that, but that's my challenge to you. Get engaged, be nosy, talk to your kids about why you're being nosy. Don't just be a hardcore dad. I said so, and I'm going to do it. Explain to them why you're doing it. And I hope that a lot of kids would understand that we do it because we love them, we care about them, and it's our job to guide and turn them into young and productive adults. And that's what we're trying to do. So I think if we can do those things, then we have a much better opportunity to ensure our kids become what we all hope, which is better than who we are today.
Yep. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sheriff Freeman. That's actually, when we think about drugs, we never think about cell phone at all. But the points that you brought up are awesome, and we are already getting questions about the app that you mentioned. So either I will get back to you, Sheriff Freeman and Deputy Ferraro, about those apps that we are talking about, so that we can communicate that to the community in general. Okay.
Sure.
And I really like your point. Not that as parents we don't trust our kids, but as Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify, right? So yeah, we trust you, but we're just verifying. So having said that, let us leave the floor to Deputy Ferraro, because he has a lot of information to present, and I'm sure he's going to awe us with the details and many things more. Okay, Deputy Ferraro, it's all yours.
Great.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Freeman, thanks for joining us.
Everyone here today, first off, thank you for having me today. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you for giving me your time about this important topic. Just a quick brief about myself. I've been serving here in Forsyth County for the last 15 years. It's a passion of mine to come and educate the community. I've been in community relations for the last 10 years. So this is a big part of what I do, is I educate our community on different topics and different safety techniques that we could utilize to keep our community safe. And of course, the #1 community in the US. So again, thank you for having me. I have a presentation. Again, if you have any questions, please engage. Just unmute whenever I'm speaking, and I'll answer questions as we go. If you would like to save them to the end, I'm good with that as well. I'm on your time, and I'm here to answer any and all questions for you. The sheriff hit on it to start the presentation out. I always talk about the perception of what we hear from the general public a majority of the time of how drug deals take place. A lot of people's education in reference to drugs is from TV, Hollywood, stuff like that. And I want you to know those trends have changed. So the drug transactions that we're seeing on our kids, with our youth, our young people, it's not even hand-to-hand transactions anymore. A lot of it goes by trust, and the sheriff hit it. There's so many apps that they communicate on, and they talk to each other with their thumbs instead of face-to-face. And believe it or not, even with the drug trade, there's an honor system. So because of TV shows like CSI, investigative TV shows, cops, stuff like that, our young people have taken tune to that, taken notice on how the police work, what we look for. So again, they came around, and the dealers themselves have come up with solutions where it's not that hand-to-hand transaction, people running up to vehicles, split second on the corner, whatever it may be, where now they're communicating via, again, social media apps and utilizing drop places within our own neighborhoods. So community centers, it's at our parks, it's over, in the neighborhoods at our, amenities. So the pool house, the clubhouse, the tennis courts, wherever it may be, And also our school age children, they're actually receiving the drugs at school. You know, these dealers are willing to actually drive and deliver these drugs right to the school campuses. So we have had a few of those incidents where the dealer themselves were caught and arrested. But again, once we catch one, we want you to know there's several others wait in line to step right up and take that person's position dealing. So that is who we're looking for. So if you see anything that you believe to be out of the ordinary and suspicious in Forsyth County, you're allowed to call 911. Anything out of the ordinary. If they're not committing a crime, they will not go to jail. Okay, they'll have a friendly encounter with one of our deputies. We get information, but we also look to find out what their intentions are. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to jump right in. Let me get my presentation started and make sure I share my screen properly.
Yeah, while you're sharing, Deputy Ferraro, I just want to say one thing to the audience. If you have any questions, feel free to type them up so that I can either organize them and read it to Deputy Ferraro so that he can find a spot to answer them. Okay.
Okay. Does everyone see my screen as I shared it properly?
Yes. Yes. We
All
can
right.
see your screen.
So again, we're going to jump right in. Some of the drugs that we commonly find in Forsyth County is no different than any other community. And again, there's no specific order that this is listed, but my goal today is to share with you what we're finding, what trends we're seeing, manifestations, what we see within our youth, again, what we're finding. So this is the list of the types of drugs we commonly see. So alcohol being the leader, first and foremost, most widely drug used out there by both teens and adults. We're going to talk a lot about the e-liquid and the vape products. Unfortunately, that's one of the biggest increases that we're seeing amongst our young people is the vaping. So we have to head it off at the pass and all become educated as parents. The next one is marijuana. We'll talk about marijuana manifestations. Again, this one, we see a huge increase in our young people. I didn't tell you, but I work in the schools a couple days a week. I teach our elementary school students. We have a CHAMPS program, which is a drug awareness, but overall it's about making.
I think, are you moving the slides? Because we see only your presentations, the PPT.
Just the
PowerPoint.
list of it?
Yeah, we're just seeing your total PowerPoint window. We're not seeing the individual slides maximized. So
okay,
maybe,
let me.
Yeah.
Are you seeing the list of the drugs commonly seen in Forsyth County?
No, we are just seeing the title drugs of Forsyth County.
Okay. Yeah.
So
because
can you maximize it? And yeah, you can click on that presentation icon right next to the bar. Down.
Yeah.
It's in the bottom.
Let me click on here. Okay. So I'll stop it and reshare it and tell me if you see it again.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to see it all. Okay. Do you see the list on it now, the types of drugs commonly seen?
No, you are not sharing the screen yet.
Still not. Okay, hang on. It's showing sharing on my side.
Oh, really? Okay, that is interesting.
Okay, let me go here.
Yes, now it is trying to share. Yeah. Now, can you click on that presentation icon next to the bar? You see that 62% down under to the lower right-hand corner.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, come down. Yes, come down. Little bit.
Come down more.
Yeah, that icon right there.
That's the battery,
No,
Microsoft
no,
Edge.
not there, not there. If you go,
The one that says more?
to your right, go a little bit to your right. Yes, this icon. Now,
Okay.
you see little bit down. How come you are not seeing that we are seeing?
It's a glass icon.
It's a glass icon. Looks like a glass, but it's a presentation icon.
Yep, I don't see it. Let me go into more. Hang on.
Oh, that is
I
a
got breakout rooms.
oh, maybe you are sharing it. Do you have two monitors or something?
I have no idea. So this is my work laptop.
Oh, okay,
Maybe
okay. Yeah,
they're
if
not
it is
letting me.
laptop.
Yeah, Deputy Sheriff, like, can you go to the top, like, you see the top, like, the,
First one from beginning.
yeah, under the
First
file,
icon to your
under the
left.
file,
On the left side?
Yeah, yeah, first
right
icon.
top corner.
Yes. Yeah, click that, please.
Yep, I got one enabled encryption with an exception. Let's see what that says.
Oh, you're getting that. That's why. Okay, or else you can try clicking that from current slide.
Okay, let me jump on my PowerPoint from current slide.
Yes, yeah, can you click on
Did
that?
it go full screen now?
No, it did not.
Still
But
Do you
did not.
have two screens? Two monitors?
I only have one monitor. So I got to click back into the PowerPoint to show the PowerPoint.
Okay,
Let's
do one
see.
thing. Do one thing. You see, like, always use subtitles on the right-hand side.
Okay, let me come
Okay.
back in. I see live transcripts, reactions, and then a more button.
no,
No, on
in
the
that
PowerPoint.
window to the right hand, there's a small right hand menu where it says always use subtitles. To the
Okay,
right,
it
to your right,
shows-
to your
Screen
right
share.
in the PowerPoint window. You can close that.
Okay,
Yeah, you can close that.
Okay.
yep.
Now,
That
yeah,
would
now,
help.
yeah,
Yes.
now when you go to the next slide, right? Maybe you can click on the next slide and start the presentation, like whenever you want to move to the next slide.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you can start. That you can click on that first icon, then it will take you to
And it will go
presentation
through.
mode. Yeah, I
Okay.
think this is yes. Yeah, click on that icon, please. Let's
Are
see.
you on it now? Because I can't
Oh.
see the picture of the Zoom call when I have the PowerPoint going.
Right. But I think we can leave it there in the interest of time.
Yeah, we
And-
can read it. Yes.
Yeah, because
Okay,
looks like
so
you're
you
getting
can see
some
it there and
error.
I'll do it. Okay, if you could see it there, I'll do it right there then. So
Yes,
you could
yeah.
see, okay?
We can
Can
see
you
it, no
see-
problem. So go ahead. Yep,
Yep, I could do it that way then.
sure.
I apologize. I don't know why it's not letting me share the entire PowerPoint.
No problem. Yep.
So I was going through the list just real fast. Again, we're no
Sure.
different than any other community, and I'll hit each topic individually as well.
Mhm.
But again, we're going to be talking about alcohol, e-liquid, and vapes. We're going to talk about marijuana. The sheriff talked about the prescription drugs, MDMA and LSD, which are party rave drugs. That's the party scene. We'll talk about them. Methamphetamine, cocaine, and heroin. And again, this is what we see here in Forsyth County, but I also want you to know we're not immune to anything. You see fentanyl's not on my list because fentanyl is an additive, and it's cut with a lot of these drugs. So we'll talk about it a little more as we get down and dirty. So again, talk about alcohol first. If you see on my presentation, we have a couple pictures here that we chose just to show you how the big alcohol companies, the big brewing companies, what they're doing is advertising to young people. So you could see, first and foremost, alcohol is the most widely abused drug out there. And they have vodka bottles and flavored vodka in reference to Pop-Tarts is the one that I showed as the example. So I want you to know a majority of the high schoolers, scary statistic, but 8 out of every 10 students have said that they have tried alcohol within their lifetime. And this was unsupervised outside of mom and dad. So as parents, I want you to know, where do you think the kids get this from? It's right from the refrigerator that's out in the garage. It's right from the refrigerator within the home. When the adults have alcohol and they're drinking in front of the kids, our kids imitate us. So a lot of the time it's found right at home, and that's where it begins. Most of us who are adults right now have had an alcoholic beverage throughout our lifetime. But I want you to know, here's a scary statistic. When we talk about young people and our children, the statistics are showing this number going down lower and lower. So right now we're between 12 and 13 years old is when some children will begin to experiment using alcohol. And again, they're taking it right from their home, from mommy and daddy. So this is important for us to know and take note of, because again, if your kids are hanging around people who, young kids who are making bad choices, they may be exposed to this. And this is something I'm teaching as young as the 5th grade, so 11-year-olds, before this decision comes. But it's important that we reinforce this at home. The dangers of alcohol, again, a young person's mind is not fully developed till 23 to 26 years old. So when we're talking about young teenagers starting to consume alcohol, it's definitely affecting their brain development. That's what studies are showing. So we need this information shared at home, as well as the continued programs with the sheriff's office and the schools in the schools. So that one I bring right up, because that is the most widely used, and a majority of young people are going to try it by the time they graduate high school. Again, statistics currently show about 80%. So 8 out of every 10 kids. Next slide up. Any questions about alcohol, by the way? Okay, gonna move on. E-liquids and vaping. I'm gonna hit this one pretty hard because we're seeing a substantial increase with our youth. So can you guys see the pictures of the vapes? I want to make sure you see in my presentation.
Yes, we can see the pictures.
Okay, excellent. So with e-liquids and vapes, as we go through, you could see on that first one, I was showing one of the most popular ones that we see coming online, which is Chronic. So Chronic is a vaping juice. And as you can see, the label on that jar right there, there's no ingredients. We don't even know what's really contained in Chronic juice. So it's a vape product. And I want you to know there are millions of different products out there. And again, there's a lot of easy ones that disguise where they actually look like thumb drives. So one of the most popular ones, and one of the original ones, is called a Juul. So if I have any vapors out there, a Juul looks like a USB stick, an extended USB stick. And actually, to charge the device, they plug it into a USB. So this is how kids are hiding it from their parents. They will have the device plugged in right into their computer, and parents will have no idea what it is. Well, with a vape product, what it is, it imitates tobacco, number one. So a majority of these are used for the drug nicotine. And with nicotine, these contents, and a lot of people aren't aware, but the dangerous contents found in vape products, and I'm going to start with tobacco and then move on to the THC or CBD, which resembles marijuana. It's the additive and the chemicals in marijuana to get people high. But starting at the beginning, the tobacco product, the nicotine, what most people don't realize is these products contain 3 to 5 times more concentrate of nicotine than your average cigarettes. Talking to the the community and speaking to our kids on a daily basis, I could tell you that they are not afraid of nicotine. Statistics are showing us, again, a substantial increase in use amongst our young population, our school age kids. Right now, we're seeing a huge abundance in middle school, believe it or not. So if you have middle schoolers, we need to make sure that they have the updated information, that they're aware. So where we are right now, first and foremost, in 2020, during the pandemic, a new law was put in place in reference to tobacco products where the age limit was raised to 21. So now people have to be the same age as consumption for alcohol to use tobacco products, to purchase them. The nicotine is one of the most addictive drugs out there, you know, and it doesn't get a lot of drive because, again, we have a lot of people, a lot of parents who smoke cigarettes. So they don't see this vaping of nicotine as a big problem for a few different reasons. At the beginning, it was labeled as a safer alternative to smoking. Well, statistics now show us we don't even have the long-term effects, but the statistics now show us vaping. So if someone starts vaping as the first entry into tobacco products and the entry into utilizing and using the nicotine drug, it is way more addictive. So our young people's brains are primed for addiction, and they're going with 3 to 5 times the amount of nicotine than if they were smoking cigarettes. Here's what went good. We're seeing a decrease in actually smoking cigarettes amongst our school age population. The problem is the alternative, which is now most of them are moving to vaping because they believe it's safer. Vape products were not developed for the start of utilizing nicotine products. So this is super important for us as parents to make sure we educate our kids to let them know vaping is not safe. Okay, it has everything that smoking a cigarette would. And again, a higher concentrate leading to way more addiction. So we need to make sure our kids are educated. We have pre-filled cartridges and reservoir style cartridges. And basically what the difference, the reservoir style cartridges can be refillable. So the big companies, again, like Juul, they have a vaping pod, right? And the pod itself is already filled and there's no refill. They have to purchase another pod to utilize the Juul cartridge. When we talk about the reservoir style, which is what a lot of the kids fall back to because they could put any type of vaping liquid within this device, which I'm about to show in just a minute. So we're seeing a bigger number of kids using the reservoir style than we are actually the Juul style, which is the pods themselves. And again, the reason being is they could refill it with any other juice or vaping products that they receive. If you look down below right there, here's our startling statistic of where we are. Studies right now are suggesting 1 out of every 3 high school students vape on a frequent basis. So this isn't just trying it. This is a young teenager, right, utilizing vape products. 1 out of every 3 kids. That's a startling jump from if we were talking about tobacco products in general. And again, when we talk about the additives and what they're actually putting into it, that's even more scary. So in the picture on that slide right there, you could see, again, these companies are 100% going after our children and target marketing our teenagers, right? So if you look at that, there's all different types that they could get. Right. But now there's flavors where it's like bubblegum flavored. So they could get mango, watermelon, peach, strawberry, lemon, you name it, any flavor they want. And it doesn't smell like tobacco, which that's what most parents are looking to find. If their child is vaping, they think they're going to smell the odor of like a cigarette, a tobacco smoke, and we do not. It smells exactly like the flavor of the vape that they're utilizing. So again, you'll get a peach aroma, you'll get a watermelon aroma, or those type of odors. And that's why it's so hard to find out if our kids are using. This is where the sheriff mentioned, and I could tell you the biggest thing towards prevention is going to be in your child's business, right? The only way to keep them safe is knowing what they're into. So we got to put that privacy concern, because that is the biggest debate when I deal and talk to parents. A lot of parents say, well, I want to trust my kids. They have the right to privacy. I haven't seen anything. And then when they catch it, it's already too late, because of how addictive these vape products are right now with the levels of nicotines that our kids are putting into our body. So to put it into perspective, and again, just more pictures for when I'm speaking right now, this is what we see with the THC additive. So when we talk about vaping, our kids are now vaping marijuana. And a lot of parents have no understanding of what we're talking about when we say vape marijuana. So yes, marijuana is still being used by our young population. Again, it's the #1 illegal drug used by teens. However, now they're hiding it and disguising it even more from their parents because it's utilized in a vape product. So a vaping device. And again, the juice is laced here with THC, which is the chemical. It's the psychoactive ingredient from marijuana. And again, what the kids don't realize, and honestly, what most parents don't even realize, is the percentage of potency that we're seeing in these vape products are causing kids to have medical episodes. So again, more and more studies are being done because these products are fairly new. In the state of Georgia, any amount of this THC liquid, any amount of vape product, so it's vape juice with THC found within, is a felony. It's considered a level 1 substance in the state of Georgia. So, and with that being said, a felony is a more severe crime than marijuana itself. And the reason being, the reason our lawmakers did that is because of the dangers that this product presents to our young people. When we talk about vaping, and it's hard to see on the pictures here, I'll bring up another one where you could see potency. But the marijuana that kids are smoking, or like the sheriff said, the marijuana that is used here in Forsyth County, a lot of it comes from Mexico. And the average THC level on physical, the plant marijuana that is actually smoked, the THC percentage is anywhere between 20 and 35%. Well, when we talk about these vaping THC products, so the vape liquids containing THC, we're seeing up to 98 and 99% concentrate of THC, which again is the psychoactive ingredient from marijuana. So it causes psychotic episodes along with psychosis, a super dangerous thing. And again, how I like to explain it is our kids are overdosing when they're using this stuff. They're putting so much THC into their body at one time, their body doesn't know what to do. Some kids lose consciousness for, a minute or so. They'll pass out. Other long-term, problems is we're seeing nausea. We're seeing, the upset stomach. We're seeing a lot of the psychotic and the psychosis episodes that come along with this because of how concentrated and how much THC these kids are putting into their body. So just talk about this for a minute. I want to talk about Reddit. So these are quotes from Reddit, which is a website that kids will go out on and post, very similar to social media without an app. And you could see with the Chronic juice, which is one we see, very popular brand. And again, I want to make sure I reiterate, it's not always Chronic. There are millions of different products that imitate. And again, it's a mix of chemicals that our children are putting into their body. But you could see what this child wrote. You'll get withdrawals for sure. Okay, showing how strong this Chronic juice is, that they're getting withdrawal symptoms, where they start to shake, they sweat profusely, Again, the upset stomach, the nauseous feeling, all of that comes with it, along with massive headaches. So you could see in this one, they tried it at a 1:9 ratio with the flavor to juice ratio. And they got high on this for 30 to 60 minutes. So using this chronic laced THC vape product, it gave them a high for 30 to 60 minutes. And then it tells you the next couple times was good. But then after a few times of using, they got the symptom of like a heavy chest, an elephant sitting on their chest where it was hard to breathe. Lightheadedness comes with it, sweaty palms, and then the after effect, again, the worst withdrawal symptom of all drugs is the feeling like crap afterwards, and you could see this kid explained it as a bad panic attack. So this is straight from our kids' mouths, and a lot of people don't realize, a lot of parents don't understand the dangers that are presented. So it's important. And you could see the list of products on the picture I have up right now. It's endless. Unfortunately, it's readily available. Our kids are very tech savvy, so they jump online and they can find this stuff anywhere. Even sites like eBay, Facebook Marketplace, sale sites, OfferUp, you name it. These are listed out there for kids to purchase. So, and that's how they get away from that minimum purchase age of 21. They could present any age they want online and usually get whatever they want. So that's important for us to monitor. So a lot of people ask, a lot of parents want to know, how do they identify a vape product that has THC on it? So here's a slide just to, again, give you an idea. A lot of this branding includes QR codes. So what we suggest from the sheriff's office, and actually this came from our narcotics unit, the way that they identify if it's THC laced vape product to see if it's THC juice and contains any THC content, there's QR codes on a majority of these types of products. So scanning the QR code could bring you back to the manufacturer site to find out the details. This helps law enforcement, the next bullet point on that slide. It helps us when we're trying to make charges. Because as I mentioned earlier, if we find someone in possession of a vape juice that contains THC, it's a felony. So we have to know what charge we need to charge people with, what crime, and this helps us. We even utilize that QR code on the products. Now, again, there's going to be several that have no ingredients listed. It's just a name, and you cannot find what's in it. And again, we need to reiterate to our kids how dangerous that is. We don't even know what we're putting into our body. I like to share in our high schools. Again, I'm aware of the worst one that I'm aware of. We had 15 students share a vape product in the gym prior to school starting. All 15 of them ended up having some side effects. So a few of them got lightheaded right away, got a headache, felt a little nauseous, but we had 5 of them actually pass out in the gym during this incident. So that's a third of the kids that tried the vape product where it affected them differently than their other friends. Out of the 5, 3 of them had to end up being transported to the ER because their heart was no longer beating at a normal rhythm. So again, these products are a makeup of all different types of chemicals that our kids are putting into our body unknowingly, of how dangerous it could be. So this is super, super important for us to educate our children on dangers. Again, just a couple more quotes that I like to share with you, because we need this to get to our children. They wouldn't recommend anyone to start with it, because you do, and you can see it, the withdrawals of headaches, anxiety, insomnia, all of it comes with the use of vaping. So again, I'm here to tell you, if you see what can a parent do, or how does a parent recognize if their children are using? If you're seeing a change in behavior, it's the time to start having conversations with your kids. Like, what changed in their life making this behavior change? If you're seeing them getting frequent headaches, having major anxiety all of a sudden, again, all different types of cravings. And again, this is only an indicator. So I don't want to make you believe just because we have that, it means it's drug use, and it's not. You know, there are other reasons why people may have this. Again, if you have teenage boys, they're eating you out of house and home. That is normal for growing boys and girls, right? So I don't want you to automatically assume it's drugs. But if we see a bunch of these indicators going on, a lack of social interaction, right, where they start becoming withdrawn themselves, not worried about hanging out with their friends, playing sports, school becomes secondary. If we start seeing real behavioral changes, that's when the conversation needs to start. Very, very important. You can see why kids use it. They get an intense euphoria, which is a high feeling, for about 10 minutes. And then 10 minutes of a relaxed vibe, right? And you can see it's just chilling. And then all of a sudden they get the tiredness, they get hungry, right? That is the side effect of the THC laced vaping products. So again, that's something we see, and you can see how fast it starts hitting them. Onset of these effects is about 15 seconds. And this is straight up from a user. So important that we recognize these symbols, right? And these signs when our kids are using. So here's some of the vape juice I was alluding to. So CBD oil, the vape products look like that too. Has a dropper where they can measure how much they're putting in. And then if you see on this one, we're talking about the synthetic. So synthetic cannabinoids or cannabinoids have been known to cause large overdoses on large scale events on school campuses nationwide. And what we're talking about, again, is they're sharing amongst our teens, and synthetic meaning it's man-made. So it is not the derivative straight from the marijuana plant. Okay, a lot of the synthetic stuff, and we're seeing the side effects initially, and they're pretty fast. You can see the altered mental state. 82% of the time our kids are receiving an altered mental state. That's one of the effects of the vaping of the e-liquids, especially the synthetics. The nauseous or the vomiting, 49%. Seizures and shaking, again, this is a side effect that they can't control and scares them the most of the time. Because again, with the overdose, if it's THC, meaning they took too much and overdosed, they are experiencing seizures 27% of the time. The loss of consciousness, 25% of the time. And then another big one that comes with the vaping juice, especially the THC laced or CBD laced, what they're seeing is 23% hallucination rates. So again, you could see this stuff is really having an effect on our child's lives, you know. And unfortunately, when they get high, how getting high works is they usually will never receive that same high after the first hit. So they'll get high and they'll always try to attain that certain high again with never reaching it, especially when we get into our more illegal and illicit drugs. But with this concentration of THC and the overdose, it's going to be the same, 98% THC. So again, super, super important. Going to lead me right into the next topic of marijuana. So you could see the sheriff talked about being in your child's phone, being in your school-age child's telephone to see what they're into. And this is on their apps, on their text messages, all of it. We need to monitor everything as parents to keep them safe. So you could see on the list right there, here's what it's called, marijuana. And yes, they may be blunt and call it marijuana or MJ, but they could be disguising it. So if you read it, you don't know what they're talking about if they use the word bud or headies or green or skunk or mids. That's all alluding to marijuana. Pot and weed are still the most common. And yes, your children are texting that. They're not even trying to hide it. So it's important that we go in and we monitor our kids' phones And if we see any of this lingo, right, or pictures of paraphernalia of what I just showed you, we need to have that tough conversation and ask what's going on. Early intervention is our safest mechanism to prevent long-term recovery, and addiction. Addiction is real, right? And it starts with the vaping that I just talked about, alcohol products, and all these illegal drugs as well. So it's important that we receive and we get early intervention for our young people. So marijuana, if you don't know, it's mainly smoked. A majority of the time it's smoked. So I'm going to go through and just show some pictures of what it looks like for those that have never seen it. A lot of parents, when I educate, or even when they call me, when they think they found marijuana in their child's room, their book bag, or whatever it may be, if you look on the top left corner of that slide, the pot leaf or the marijuana plant leaf, that's what most parents are looking for, and that is not what's contained in marijuana. What you're going to find is what's right below that picture on the bottom left. That's what it looks like. And it's the dried up flowery buds from the cannabis plant. And that's what gets smoked. And again, includes the THC chemical that gets our kids high. You can see on the top right, that's a smoking device. And again, comes in many variations. So please don't look just for this device. All different colors. I've had kids hide them right in plain view in their bedrooms, and parents had no idea what they went into. The child disguised it as they were into glass art or blown glass art, because this is known as a bowl, right? And it could be used for more than just marijuana. I want you to know methamphetamine could be smoked through this device. Crack cocaine could be smoked through this device. We're going to get to dabs in a minute. So this device is just a smoking device out there, sold right at our local gas stations, unfortunately. So now we have strong ordinances in Forsyth County, but our kids could cross right the county line and find anything they want. But again, that's a smoking device. The bottom right side picture, I want you to pay attention to this. So this is the remnants of what we will find if our children are smoking marijuana. And I want you to know the kids discard this right in your garbage can at home. So these are the stems and the seeds. The seeds are known to give headaches, so no one likes a headache. So they remove the seeds from their marijuana. And again, this is a way the dealers, it's an additive, just part of it, because they're breaking the stalk, right? So it's the branches off and putting it in a bag to sell to our kids, and it increases the weight. Now, again, our kids, another telltale, and I think I have a picture coming up, but is a grinder. So they grind this up, and the seeds and the remnants of the stalks is what's discarded. That is not smoked. All they want is the dried out flowery buds. That's it. That's what the marijuana is that they're smoking. So again, if you see stuff like this bottom right-hand corner being discarded in their bathroom, garbage pail or garbage can, in their bedroom if they have one. And some of the time this is just left out and parents have no clue what it is. So if it looks like seeds to a plant, you need to start having conversations. You can see how creative our children are. So again, with the likes of social media and everything else, a normal Coke can. So in this one, it's a Sprite can. This is a homemade smoking device, and they disguise it. They throw this right away with the recycle in your home. So they punch holes on the top. That's where the marijuana is pushed, on the top left picture. They dent the can, punch a hole with a pen, punch a hole in on the side. They put the marijuana in the middle. They light it up, and they inhale all the smoke through that pen hole by his thumb on the left. So right there, you could see the smart water bottle was made into a bong, which is a smoking device. So they add a little bit of water on the bottom. A lot of this, we see ratchets, so a socket set. If you have sockets go missing, make sure you're asking your kids, because that's a frequent thing we see with sockets. From a ratchet set being used to place the marijuana in, so it don't go right into the water on a bong. Bottom left, you can see that's a joystick, a Nintendo 64 joystick that this kid created and turned into a marijuana smoking device. Again, this was right in his bedroom, and this is a picture from Forsyth County. So again, they're right out in front of their parents, and the parents have no clue what's going on. And then you can see the apple. It's the same premise as the Coke can. They just make a hole in the top of the apple down and punch another hole in the side. You could see where they put the marijuana up top. That's where they'll light it, and they'll inhale the smoke down on the bottom hole. So if you're starting to see a lot of apples thrown away, again, time for questioning. Yeah, so again, this just shows you how creative our kids can get, especially using social media platforms like YouTube or Snapchat. They send it to each other, and once one kid uses it, the mass know, especially school age kids. Once one person knows it, everyone knows it within minutes, a click of a button. That's the great thing about social media, but the negative side of it as well. Again, this is the marijuana. If you're seeing these large amounts, and I say large, this is dealer size. This is not a user. This means your kid is selling. When we come across people with a full sandwich baggie of marijuana, that is not personal use. Typically when we see personal use, you may see like a half of a sandwich bag, a corner, again, a joint. Something that I didn't have on here, but rolling papers, but that's something of the past. We don't even see it a whole lot anymore, where the kids are buying rolling papers and everything else. Yep, I took that slide out. But I also want you to know the Philly blunt cigars is another thing that our kids are utilizing. And what they do is they cut the cigar down the middle, right? They open it up, take out the tobacco, and they add marijuana. A very easy way that they disguise using marijuana. So we need to be aware of that. And other things we need to pay attention to when we talk about the use of marijuana. If you're doing your child's laundry and you're coming across like a bottle of Visine, or stuff of that nature, it's time to start answering questions. Asking them questions. Why would they carry a bottle of Visine with them? And I want you to know, at being in law enforcement for 15 years, this is a telltale. Do I have a question? Nope. Okay. So the Visine is a telltale sign that they're using, right? So again, it's time to lead to conversation with your child about why. Now, there are reasons. Again, if your child has an eye disorder where it requires Visine, take that out of the equation, right? But again, if they're not, and you're finding them using Visine or carrying Visine, if you get into their car and they have Visine, it's probably leading to you to believe, it leads me to believe they're probably using marijuana. So again, leads us to conversations with our kids. Here's another derivative of marijuana that a lot of people aren't aware of, not as popular also as well, but this is to increase the level of potency. So again, the raw marijuana from here, the flowery buds, the potency is between 20 and 35%. 35 being very, very high-end street marijuana. When we talk about the BHO, which is the butane hash oil, another name for dabs or wax or shatter, if you see that in texting or social media platforms with your child, this is what it looks like. And it's a more potent form than the marijuana plant. What they do, and normally it's homemade, so it's not done by professional scientists. These are kids that are doing this, and they're extracting the THC, and it ends up looking like wax. And again, telltale for us, unfortunately, and I don't know why, I don't know the reasoning, but we do see it common with these little silicone cylinders. So that looks pretty big in my picture. I want you to know that's probably a little bit bigger than my thumb. So that orange container, and it's silicone, because this stuff is like wax. It looks like honey. And again, it leads to a overdose a majority of the time when a kid first starts using. So what should parents look for? Well, when we talk about smoking dabs, this is a bong on the right-hand side, but it needs extreme heat. So if you see your kid not with a regular lighter, but they get these like what's it called, lighter, the ones that have the, and again you could see it, it looks like a gun in this picture, for extreme heat. It's almost like a propane. The miniature propane tanks we have seen used by our young people, like a blowtorch. It's the torch lighters. That's what I was trying to find. The torch lighters that our kids are using to smoke dabs. Again, I want you to know these are not as common as, number one, the vaping THC or the THC, the marijuana in general. We do see some escalation, but not as often as what we see with the vapes. So going back to the vapes to show you the flavors, here's bubblegum flavor and orange. And if you look on it, it tells you the potency. Hard to see in the picture, I know, but the potency of THC on the caramel, the orange flavored, is 89% THC. Lead for an immediate overdose. Very similar to our dabs. The dabs, that butane hash oil could be 99% potency. Super, super dangerous for our kids to utilize. THC manifestations. This is how we can recognize. First and foremost are the bloodshot, watery eyes. This is a side effect your child has no control over. The only way they hide it is, again, they use products like Visine to stop the redness in the eye. However, the next one, that increased appetite, the munchies, is a real side effect of people getting high on marijuana, utilizing the THC. And you can see in my picture, kind of hard, and I don't know your computer screen, but it increases the level and raises our appetite, and it raises our taste buds. So when taste buds are raised, they're not normally noticeable. So if you believe your child was smoking marijuana or THC, any derivative, so vapes or anything that contain THC, if you ask them to stick out their tongue, in this picture, you could see it causes like a brownish tint, brownish greenish tint on the back of their tongue. And that's because all of their taste buds are raised on their tongue where we could see it. Where again, in a normal instance, taste buds are not raised. So if you see it, that's a side effect. Another one that I help with parents, what I tell them about is the eyelid tremors. Again, if your child just came home from a party, a friend's house, and you believe they're high on marijuana, you could just ask them to close their eyes, put their hands down to their sides, and their eyelids are going to be jumping. Their eyeballs are going to be moving like crazy underneath their eyelids, causing these tremors. I like to compare it. If you've ever been stressed out before at work or anything, and you had involuntary, tremors of your eyelid from stress, guess what? THC products do that to our body unprovoked, and we have no idea that it's doing it. Okay, so when you do that with your child, they don't know. We call it the eyelid dances in law enforcement. So those are the manifestations where we could find out if our kids are using. And I know I'm running long, so Sri Ram, if you would tell me, how much time do I have?
Yep, you can go ahead. We can easily go half an hour more.
Okay. Yep, perfect. And I'm getting through because those are the main ones that we're seeing with our school age kids. We're going to get into the harder drugs now, but I want you to know with marijuana, before I get down into methamphetamine, controversial statement I'm about to make, but again, doing this for 15 years, raising two teenagers. I have a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old right now. Having it, unfortunately, my brother is in recovery, seeing it in my family. But with my experience, I could tell you by far, I work with people in recovery on a daily basis. They help me with education and understanding. And marijuana is definitely a gateway drug. So I want to make sure I'm clear when I make that statement. I'm not saying everyone who tried marijuana is going to move on to bigger and better. However, now go to the other side. When I talk to people in recovery who have been drug addicts, they've been addicted to drugs, they all have the same commonality of starting with their first illegal drug of marijuana. They got high, they liked the way it was feeling, and then they wanted a higher high that marijuana got them, which led them to bigger and better, which is what we're about to get to right now. So first and foremost, methamphetamine. I want you to know the Meth Project of Georgia did a fantastic job of scaring our kids. Again, being in our schools, talking to teenagers all the time, talking to school age kids, I could tell you a lot of kids are still afraid of meth. And again, if you turn on your radio, those commercials are still out there about the Meth Project. So education, reaching our kids and scaring them, fantastic job with methamphetamine. It is still out there, and unfortunately, due to the pandemic and people being isolated, not going to school shut down, we've seen a substantial uptick in methamphetamine use. Now, again, I want to be honest and let you know, this is typically not the drug of choice among school-age kids. We see it after high school graduation. So in the early 20s is when we see the methamphetamine really kick. So if you have kids in their 20s, I want you to know that's when we see the methamphetamine start to kick in. Now, again, it doesn't mean no school-age kids, but this is not the drug of choice among school-age kids. But again, if we see it, if you see these words, here's the nicknames that it goes under: ice, crystal, meth, yellow, crank, fire, glass, speed, shards, and dope. When I show you the picture, you'll understand. The way our kids use them, or way meth users use and consume, is first and foremost, it's smoked. Now, again, as they get addicted to it, that's when it gets to bigger and better. If we're seeing it injected, it means they are already past the stage of smoking it. And if they're putting needles into their arms with illegal drugs, we're already talking about someone with a severe addiction. I don't know many. Now, again, I will never say never, but I don't know many drug addicts who started and said, oh, I want to inject it to get the highest high as fast as possible. It's usually an escalation process. So again, with that being said, a majority of the time we see it smoked. So to give you an idea of what it looks like, bottom right is methamphetamine. And you can see it looks like clear rock candy. And I want you to know, sometimes this is how our young people who choose this drug disguise it from mom and dad. They say it's rock candy because it looks just like it. Okay. And you can see why it gets its nickname of glass or shards, right? So the smoking device on the bottom left, that's called a chalet. And what they do is they put a piece of that meth down in the bottom and they heat it up. And they, on the top is where they inhale the smoke. They put their mouth over the top and inhale the smoke. It's called a chalet. So again, not very important to you, but if you're seeing little devices, smoking devices, burnt at the bottom, like on this one right here, it should raise major concern. Okay, I want you to know, young people, one of the big things we see with this is they use light bulbs. So they take a regular normal light bulb, they break the top off and remove the inside. So all it is the glass shaped in a light bulb. And what they do is fill that with methamphetamine, light it up. So they put the lighter underneath to burn it, and they inhale the smoke from the top of a broken light bulb. If you're finding that, definitely have some illegal drug use going on. Super important to pay attention and look. So with methamphetamine, I like sharing effects. I want you to know one-time use of this stuff and your child could be addicted for the rest of their life. Okay, it's one-time use. That's how bad this drug is. So what happens is when they ingest this drug, what happens is all of the dopamine within their brain is released at the same time. It'll be the highest high that they ever receive in their life. And the addiction starts because they always will be chasing that high again. Methamphetamine will go over manifestations and how long, but you could see in the picture. So this lady, this was an 8-year progression. Top left, she looks pretty normal, right? That's her first booking photo. And then through an 8-year time frame, you could see where she started and where she ended up becoming a meth addict, right? Methamphetamine. So again, you could see it sucks in the body, and the people lose interest in everything in their life except getting their next high. That's how addictive this stuff is. So it's important for us to know, because again, if you're seeing that behavior from our child, we need to get them help and into recovery as fast as possible. Hopefully, again, everything that I'm sharing today, I hope most of it is never used, right? Especially with these stronger drugs, because if we're getting into use of methamphetamine, cocaine, and heroin, means we really, really have an addiction problem. Addiction is real and it's a disease. So these pictures right here, again, looking at who are dealers or how they're enticing children to use. The bottom right used to be, this is a few years old, this picture, but it was here in Forsyth County, sold as Strawberry Quick, knowing it was methamphetamine. So I want to break that myth right now and misunderstanding. A lot of parents are under the impression that our kids are deceived into using drugs, and that is not the case a majority of the time. I will never say never. Okay. However, a large majority of the time, the kids know what they're getting into. They just don't know how to say no to the peer pressure. So we need to make sure we give them an out as parents and letting them know if they're ever in a compromising situation, they could call us to come get them from wherever they are, no questions asked. This way we could save our kids' life from making a bad choice that they know they don't want to make. But again, you could see they're being influenced. Strawberry Quick entices our kids. It looks like candy, right? And it's no different, has no different taste than the methamphetamine on the left. That's just what it is. So people ask, if I think my kids are using, but I don't know, right? What could I do? The top right is a 5-panel drug test that you could go to your local pharmacy and buy. So it's found at CVS, at Walmart. It's found anywhere, Walgreens, the drugstore where you go and pick up your medicine. And that's a 5-panel test. So that'll test them for all different types of drugs, methamphetamine, cocaine. This one also tests for, let me read it right here. So we got amphetamine, cocaine, THC. So this one also will pop if they're using marijuana. And again, they come in all different forms. This is a 5-panel, and you test for whatever you want. But if you believe that your child is using for any reason, this is your first step. Make them do a drug test. No doubt about it. That will confirm your suspicion or, again, deny. Here's the thing with drug tests. You cannot tell them when. They know how to beat it. It's out there on social media. If you say, hey, I'm going to test you every Friday, or you spend the night Friday, I'm testing you Saturday when you come home. If it's planned, there are ways that they could beat the drug test. Okay, so this is an unplanned, unscheduled event if you're going to choose testing. Manifestation. So if they are under the influence of methamphetamine, first and foremost, their pupils are going to be heavily dilated. So in law enforcement, we always use a flashlight for this. But if you turn the light off and then turn their light on and their pupils don't restrict as normal, it could mean, again, this is an indicator. There's reasons. There could be a head injury that occurred that causes this as well. But I want you to know it's based on your suspicion and indicators. If you see heavily dilated pupils, we could have an issue. It could mean they're under the influence of a methamphetamine. The grinding of the teeth, they don't even realize they're doing it because of the next one, the hyperactivity, right? And they're prone to grind their teeth without even knowing it. So if that's a new habit that your child just developed, it could be because of drug use. The irritability, the paranoia, the not sleeping. Share a quick story with you. The worst case that I ever dealt with, I pulled a young lady over, early 20s, and she told me she didn't sleep for a full week. She was up for 7 days straight. And when I tell you she was all over the road, she went from all the way outside the emergency lane on the grass, across 400 onto the other grass and back. And when I pulled her over, she couldn't stop moving. So that hyperactivity leads to they can't sit still. And they don't even realize. She thought, when I was conversing with her, she thought she was sitting still, and I kept asking her to stop shaking her hands, and she couldn't. This is a side effect that they cannot control. So again, eyes never lie. So always check your children's eyes. That'll tell a story, and then make them tell you what they've been using. In this case, it's dilated pupils. And you'll find a lot of the drugs we talk about have similar, very similar manifestations. Next one we're going to talk about is cocaine. So cocaine, again, I want you to know this is making a big comeback with our college age kids. You know, again, it's known to keep them awake for the cramming sessions, to study for tests and everything else. One of the things that I've been told here recently from a recovering addict who used to use cocaine while going through college, he told me it actually kept him in tune and focused more when he was high on cocaine in his mind than when he wasn't using. So every testing day, he would use cocaine to intensify his focus. So again, it comes by a whole bunch of different slang. And if you Google this, this is ever changing. But coke, blow, perico, powder, crack, rock, white girl, snow, girl. If you see that in text messages, social media apps, messages, you name it, then it's referring to cocaine. Again, a majority, large majority in our county, cocaine is snorted. Now, again, it can be smoked, and it also can be injected. At that time, we're talking about a severe addiction where the person don't care that people take notice anymore, notice if they're using or not. Tools of the trade. So you can see cocaine in its powder form on the bottom left. And yes, we see rolled up bills as one of the most common ways that it's used to be snorted, just like in the movies. So if you're finding razor blades laying around, right, with rolled up dollar bills, I want you to know that they're cutting and snorting. Now, again, cocaine most prominent, but they do this with prescription pills as well. So this is important for us to understand. I didn't pass prescription. Nope. So that's coming up. So again, with cocaine, you could see it, another big telltale. If they're smoking cocaine, they use this copper steel wool. And I learned recently why copper, not regular steel wool as a filter, but copper. And it's because they could continually burn the copper to get the smoke, all of the cocaine off of it. And the crack is really what it's called when they're smoking it. It's crack cocaine. So it looks like the picture up in the top, more of a solid form. What they do is put that in the test tube, right? Drop it down. They put a drop of water. They rip off a little of this copper steel wool and use that as the filter. They light it from the bottom and inhale. They suck on the top of the test tube. So people always ask me, where do they get these test tubes? Well, they're readily available in the gas stations. If you ever seen the plastic roses with the test tube bottle at the bottom, our kids know that, not even our kids, our young people and the youth know that that's exactly what that's used for a smoking device. They take the little plastic rose out and they use that as a smoking drug device. That's paraphernalia. So again, tools of the trade, that's what we see. If you find that, again, conversation, call us. We could help you out. We're not the bad guy, and we don't just arrest people. So if you find it and you are seeking help, not any, again, I get it why people don't call the police in this instance, because it's a crime and they don't want their child to go to jail. But I want you to know, I come out, we counsel, we get them the help they need through networks in the community, nonprofits that do recovery, education, stuff like that. And again, that's our ultimate goal. We realize that just taking them to jail is not the answer we need. Law enforcement has now evolved, especially under Sheriff Freeman, where we want to get these people help. We're sick of the revolving door of arresting, and they're released, and we arrest them again, and they're released and arrest them. Again, that gets old, and we're not helping anyone by doing that. So we have evolved to seek treatment. So manifestations of cocaine, manifestations, of cocaine. Dilated pupils, very similar to methamphetamine. It's a stimulant, the grinding of the teeth, the hyperactivity, the non-sleeping. It keeps them up, and that's why we're seeing this most prominent amongst college-age kids. Now, again, it doesn't mean no high school, but it's very rare for us to find cocaine in a high school or with a high school age kid. Again, a large majority is we're seeing this as the drug of choice across the nation as well amongst college kids. So eyes never lie. Again, look at your kids' eyes straight in the eye and pay attention and observe, because they never lie. That's our telltale sign on everything. So then we're going to move to the most prominent drug out there, right? And when I say prominent, it's the most well-known, not the most widely used. And that's so important for people to understand. So heroin. I don't know anyone who jumped to use heroin without escalating, meaning going up the scale first, starting at, again, marijuana, and then trying maybe methamphetamine or cocaine. Heroin is usually the last of the last, where they're seeking the highest high they could get. Again, typically addicts by this point, and no one wakes up wanting to be a drug addict. But again, this drug is so powerful. Once they use, they lose every care in their life, anything that was important to them. All they care about is their next high. So it's very important. Again, you could see the nicknames up there: boy, brown, tar, bird, China white, and dark, similar to what we heard previously. And a lot of them are synonymous amongst drugs. Dope, for instance. Right? Methods of consumption. Again, this is snorted, smoking, and injected as well. And again, we see it in all phases. So we see that consumption. All three of those are used in a variant. Again, if we see injections, they're in full-blown addiction. But our youth knows how to hide it. This is a Schedule I drug with no medicinal purpose whatsoever. So a lot of people don't know what it looks like. So this is important right here. The bottom left is pure. So that's pure heroin with no additive. And unfortunately, what's most dangerous about this drug, by itself, it's strong enough and potent enough to kill someone. Well, unfortunately, the dealers are mixing lethal doses of fentanyl in with this. In along with every drug I talk to today. I want you to know fentanyl is being laced with marijuana. So it's being put in there to give people a higher high and hook them. And again, 4 out of every 10 doses of fentanyl are fatal doses, meaning causing a fatality, killing people. 4 out of 10, including our pills, which we're about to get to. But the bottom is pure form, where it looks like white snow, for instance, or again, baking soda is what I compare it to. And the top right is, we call it Nestle Quick, but it has your grayish brownish tint to it. And that's still pure heroin. It's just throughout the process, it got dirty, right? And again, with the processing and everything else, cutting it and how they do it, again, this is what it comes to. So it's the mixture that puts it there. In our area, we see more of the brownish gray than we do the white, the pure heroin. However, both of them have the same potency. So I want to make sure we're clear with that too. They're both lethal. Tools of the trade, again, if full-blown addict, we're seeing syringes, you're seeing dirty spoons, cotton balls. I'm about to get to that one too. Very important. And then we're seeing like a tourniquet. So rubber bands, we're seeing cut bra straps to use as a tourniquet by users. So if you're seeing stuff like that, you definitely need to start asking questions, right? It could be full-blown addiction that they're hiding for you by injecting. Here's the scary part. They inject between their fingers, so there's no injection site that you're going to see. Between their toes, through their butt. And again, even so, you know, within the last year or so, a common thing was in the corner of the eyeball. That's how much an addictive this drug is. People will put a needle into their own eye to try and disguise their use. So again, very, very addictive drug, and they lose everything. The change of behavior is everything they're looking for. Parents constantly call me and ask, I'll see track marks once my kid uses. So I have that picture there of what a track mark looks like. That is a collapsed vein. That's from someone injecting drugs. Absolutely. However, this does not come out of one use. Okay, this is a prolonged use utilizing the same vein. And then it finally bursts, and really it's an erupted vein, right? So it can't be used anymore. It's basically dead. So the track marks do not come immediately. I'm going to show you the picture of an injection site in a minute. So in law enforcement, the droopy eyelids, this is the manifestation we see. The constricted pupils, you can see their pinpoint. And again, even with a light or dark, it doesn't change. The eyes never lie. Okay, so that's something to pay attention to. The constricted, the droopy eyelids, we call it the scene of The Walking Dead. And again, I have experienced it where talking to someone, they will literally fall asleep, sleeping, snoring, standing up. And it's very similar to narcolepsy is what it looks like, where they're mid-conversation, they fall asleep for a few seconds and wake right up like they never fell asleep. Scariest thing that I ever experienced. You know, talking to someone, I call them the Walking Dead. And again, track marks is after extended use. So that's what we're seeing. The MDMA and the ecstasy. So these are party drugs, Molly. Here's what they look like. And you can see, who do they entice? Our youth, our young people. So they look like convectionate hearts. We have pill presses out there that are sold. 100% legal, by the way. Legal for someone to buy a pill press. And then they put illegal drugs, right? So ecstasy, a party drug. You know, our Molly, the bottom left is Molly. So you could go to the drugstore and buy these capsules and fill them with any substance you want. In the bottom form, that's Molly. Again, a party drug. These are the drugs that kids will take to lower their inhibitions, right? They go out there and it puts them in, it's high frequent, causes hallucinations, but a euphoria where they don't care about anything. But it's short term. These last about 6 hours. So when they get high on this, it's about a 6-hour high. And again, it's to 100% lower their inhibitions. So their morals go 100% out the window. So your rave parties and everything else, these pills are sold. Here's the scary thing. These pills are super cheap, as low as $6 a pop. So your kid could go and get high for 6 hours, right? And again, it only costs them $6, which unfortunately in a affluent county like Forsyth County, that's not hard for any child to find. The LSD stamp. So again, along another party drug, you know, we see these at concerts a lot after people have attended the concert. So a live music, you know, festivals, stuff like that, the stamps, and you can see the size, they're minute. They're smaller than your fingernail, right? As you can see the fingertip on the one, the bottom left. And what they do is they just put this stamp that has a couple drops of LSD on it, and they put it under their tongue and they consume it that way. And again, you could see it's provoked, hard to see in the picture here, right? But that was SpongeBob, there's Superman, you could see the Avengers and everything else. So designed to entice kids, and it causes a high. The manifestations of all those drugs, again, super dilated pupils, they hallucinations is one of the biggest side effects that most of them will say. And you know, when we come across people who are under the influence of these drugs, the party drugs, is they'll really think there's something's going on right next to them. The blue devil or the bugs are chasing them, right? The house is moving, the house is walking down the block, stuff like that. Real severe hallucinations. They sweat profusely. That's not on my slide here, but I want you to know it raises the blood temperature. So our body temperature goes through almost like if we had a fever. And again, with that causes profuse sweating. Again, a telltale. If it's freezing outside, I know we're coming into warmer weather, but if it's freezing outside and your child is wearing a t-shirt and shorts and still profusely sweating, probably under the influence of one of these drugs, you know, unless they have a medical disorder. So last but not least, we're going to talk about prescription drugs. This is real important because we play a vital role as parents. Most of our prescription drug abuse happens because of the readily available drugs right from home. And we see our kids taking them right out of the medicine cabinet at home and bringing them either to parties, to schools, to wherever, and sharing them with other kids. Vital step for safety is if you have a medicine cabinet, number one, if you are ever given a prescription drug and you're not going to utilize it or it expires, get rid of it. And we have drop boxes at our precincts open every day, Monday through Friday, and the jail is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you have any expired medication in your home, you need to get rid of it because this is the leading cause for prescription drug abuse. And again, during the escalation, I want you to know prior to going to the harder drugs like methamphetamine, cocaine, or heroin, we do see kids using pills. You know, this is something readily available in the high schools because it's so easy to take from home. So very important that we play our part and get rid of any medicine out of our medicine cabinet. Again, it varies in class, you know, hypothetically and theoretically, Schedule 1, a Schedule 1 drug has no medicinal purposes. And in Georgia, they're scheduled up to a Schedule 5. Schedule 2, highly addictive, but has medical use. So again, the schedule refers to, number one, how addictive that the drug is, and if it has any medical use. So Schedule 1 to Schedule 5. That's important for us to know. So I told you we were going to see an injection site. This is after a child or a young person starts consuming prescription drugs and gets addicted, they will start shaving him down and ultimately injecting before escalating up to a heroin, so to speak, for instance. So this is exaggerated. Again, this picture is blown up because a needle entry into the body is so small. But I put it up to show you this has been an injection site for a time period now where it already developed a scabbing around where they inject. So if you start seeing this, especially in the crease of the elbow on your child's forearm, you know, this is important for you to know because guess what? That means they're injecting, they're using something. The escalation of pills, again, in this one, you could see it. Again, go from injecting, we see smoking pills. Again, tinfoil is a telltale because they put the pill on there, they burn it, they're inhaling the smoke from the pill, and they're chasing it around on the tinfoil, causing the black snake marks. So again, if you're seeing burnt tinfoil, it's not just pills, it's used for marijuana, it's used for crack, cocaine. So again, a lot of these paraphernalia are used amongst all different drugs. Hard to tell you exactly which one it is without having the drug itself. But these used dirty spoons. Again, an addict, when someone's using, they tend to lose the importance of hygiene. Their hygiene takes a big downfall pretty fast too amongst use, even before full-blown addiction. So if we're seeing the lack of showering, you know, not using deodorant, not washing their hair, not this, again, odds are it could be induced due to drug use, because we see that. So cleaning up after themselves starts to go away as well. Initially, they'll hide it, and then they get to the point where they don't care anymore. They just care about getting high. So those are tools of the trade that we see. Again, talking about our young, and this was in no order, by the way, but I want you to know robo-tripping is real. So even cough medicine, getting off of the illegal illicit drugs, we're getting to what's in your medicine cabinet at home, readily available. And when I talk about this, I want you to know what we see most is they'll take Robitussin, and they call it triple C's or DXM, right? But your cough medicine that you have at home, what they'll do is take the whole bottle and mix it in with a Gatorade, and they'll drink it that way. This way it's disguised. And what they're doing is they're feeling a little bit of the euphoria from the alcohol found in cough medicine. Well, what we're finding and what studies are showing now, if this is a drug of choice, right, because it's the only one readily available amongst our youth, when they do it, they're prone to have the common cough or the common cold for extended periods of time. Very hard now with the pandemic and COVID, right? Because it's very similar symptoms as the common cold. So very hard to decipher. But if you notice that your cough medicine is going missing in a you know, expeditious manner and no one's been sick, you need to have the conversation, because robo-tripping and triple C, it's common. If you see that word being used, that means they're mixing cough syrup, a full bottle, by the way. It's not just a one dose. They're taking a whole bottle and mixing it with Gatorade or a beverage. It could even be an energy drink. So common of what we see. And they're using all kinds. So I know I put the pills in the top right. That's not what's used in the robo-tripping or triple C. And what we're seeing is this down on the left, the liquid form. And yes, they are targeting. They may even ask you to go get the cough medicine that has codeine. So codeine is one of the main ingredients they're looking for to get that high. Again, when we talked about the HGN, that's something in law enforcement where it's their eyes. So when they go across, moving their eyes is not in a nice, smooth fashion. And the sweating profusely is a side effect of utilizing cough medicine. So robo-tripping. And then last but not least, I want to end up with the synthetic marijuana, because this is still out there. Not as prevalent as it used to be because of the local ordinances. But if your kids commute or have access to vehicles right in Cherokee, right in Dawson, and right in Fulton, your kids could readily available get this. One of the most prominent ones was Spice. Again, there's a million of them out there. And this is a man-made, they sell it and market it as a potpourri, knowing that our children are smoking it because it imitates the effects of marijuana use. So it's synthetic. And again, unfortunately, around the country, we have seen young people actually fall out and die after one hit of this stuff, because all it is a mixture of chemicals, as dangerous as the vaping. So that's all I have. I know I took a little longer, and I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak and educate. I only hit the highs. So if you have any follow-ups after today, please reach out. I'm here to answer everything and anything with my experience and my network in the community to help our families here in Forsyth County. But again, thank you so much for having me today and joining me on a Saturday afternoon for this vital information for keeping our kids safe.
Thank you very much, Deputy Ferrero. It's a lot of information. I'm
It
sure,
is.
as we say, the moment it is presented, we only get 50% of it. So we are getting some questions. What I will do, Deputy Ferrero, is I'll compile those questions, probably send them to you, so you can answer them, and we will propagate them to the community. Okay?
Fantastic. Yes, that'll be fantastic.
Mhm.
Again, thank you everyone for giving me your time today. I hope I enlightened you. I didn't scare you. Parenting is not easy, right? So, and I tell parents all the time in the school, happy parenting. There's no book on being the perfect parent, and drugs do not discriminate. That's the sad fact. Every socioeconomic scale it hits, even when we're part of our kids' lives, they could experiment and find themselves in a compromising situation.
Right.
So with that, again, I just want to say thank you for being gracious enough for giving me your time on a Saturday.
Thank you very much, Deputy Ferrero. And yes, we will reach out to you later on if needed. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Raja and Venkat and everyone who helped for this event to make it possible. And probably we'll have some more events in the future. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. And everyone have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.